Um, I am going to record the session. And here's the button.
Recording in progress.
How are you all doing today? The start of the new semester. A few weeks of break, and I hope you had a restful break. How are you all doing? Good. Okay, so thumbs up, and you're ready to start another semester. Let me ask you, how many of you have another class before this one? Yeah, a couple of you. Yeah, this must be kind of, exhausting for some of you to be taking two classes back to back, but so I'll try to make this session engaging as much as possible. All right, so let's get started. And there's 18 of you enrolled, and I know this is your first time getting together with your concentration folks, right? So everybody here, I believe, are pursuing a degree in higher education, right? Am I correct? Okay, wonderful. And we will have the time to talk a little bit about ourselves in just a second. This is our first class. Yeah, Dana, I agree. This is not my first time, but one of the fewer times that I teach at this hour too, but 9:50, wherever you are at. I'm sorry about that. But yeah. Okay, so let's link is invalid. What link? Are you talking about the link to the room?
Yeah, I got a text asking. Yeah, I think Laura was sharing the same issue. A couple of classmates were just texting saying that they were having issues getting in. I just wanted to bring it to your attention.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. I mean, has anyone experienced an issue?
I had to call IT beforehand.
Really?
Yeah, so the in the drop down in the bright space, it tells us it's invalid. So IT had to walk me through I forgot I put the link in the ust.zoom.us, and then they had to do a remote thing in order for me to gain
Oh
access.
no. So it's the Zoom issue, I think, right? Hmm,
Yeah.
might be. Okay. Okay. How many of you are here? 16 of you. Are there any other people that you know of who might be having trouble logging in that I need
Um,
to reach out to?
Erin, who was in my last class, I just sent her the meeting link info
Okay.
that Laura shared, so hopefully that will help.
Yeah, I haven't received any email asking for a link or letting me know of the issue that they're having. So thank you for sending your classmate a link. Okay. Um, yeah, if one person comes in or two. Okay, we'll just get started. And we have this meeting on recording, so hopefully if there's anything that they missed, and they'll have a recording link to revisit later. All right. Okay. So we're going to talk about student development theories and the critical issues. And let me share my slides. And first of all, let me share with you where I'm going to be saving my slides and all the class-related materials from now on. I know some of you would like to review the slides ahead of time, or as you do your readings, you might want to see like what I have planned for the class, and you're more than welcome to, visit this folder and give me one second, and then see what we will be doing for the week. Give me one second. Let me just copy and paste the link there in the chat, and this is the folder. And when you have the first week's folder, and if you click on it, and I got a slides there as well as the activity we're going to do. And I'm going to be throwing any other relevant materials in the weeks. And also we do have the Brightspace too. So for all the readings and other related materials. All right, so let me then now go ahead and share the slides. All right, so let me introduce myself first. Everybody's able to see my screen, right?
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you. All right. It requests access. Okay, let me fix that soon, but right now you can look at the screen. All right, so this is me, and I'm an educator, and I am, believing in all of this, and this is the reason why that I love the contents, and I really love to teach this course. And my name is Emmy Min, and I've been with USC for 17 years as a full-time professor. And I teach in EDL program. I teach in MAT, master's level, as well as OCL, another doctoral program that we have. And I teach an MAT T-cell program, an EC program, the educational counseling programs, the higher ed, another higher ed master's program. So I do teach in different programs. However, my content area expertise is around student development theory, as well as teaching strategies and assessments and equity, diversity, inclusion. So it's my area of expertise and area of my passion and interest. All right, so that's me, and welcome everyone to the course, and I really look forward to working with you for the rest of the semester, really short, condensed summer semester, and I'll go over the syllabus in a little bit. I am going to say that I will be available to meet with you after class every time. So you can just say, oh, I have a question, I have something that I wanted to say, and we can always stay on after class to chat if you need me. But if you are unable to see me after class, but you want to set up a time to meet and discuss, of course, I'll be available to meet outside the class, and just email me, and so we can make an appointment for a meeting or office hour. Okay. All right. Thank you. And I am going to ask you to introduce yourselves. So first of all, what will you prefer to be called, and what is, or your gender pronoun, and what is your professional background, and what would you like to do after getting your doctorate degree, or anything that we would like, you would like us to know more about you, and that will really help us and help me to tailor the content and around your needs and interest and wants as well. So let me take notes too. So whoever is ready, you can get started so I can close this out. So I
I
want to
can go
see your face.
first.
Yeah, sure. So you can also popcorn after you, so we can kind of, yeah, Daniela, welcome back to my class.
Nice to see you.
All right.
So, hi, my name is Daniela Cruz Gomez. My pronouns is her, she, and Naya. I am a currently disability specialist at UCLA. I've been working in the disability field for 4 years. My goal after getting my doctorate is to be like a full-time professor, or to be a director or social director in the disability services field. So that is my goal. Our popcorn too. Let's see. Someone I don't know. Erica.
Hi, my name is Erica Smith. I used to work in student affairs for over 8+ years, and I recently decided to try to pivot my career. So I'm kind of stuck in the in between, trying to figure out what interests me now. My goal after I graduate is to hopefully become a part-time semester and potentially start working for like more towards employee relations.
All right. Welcome to the course, Erica and Daniela. Erica, popcorn too.
I popcorn to Dana.
Thank you, Erica. I'm Dana Tate. My pronouns are she, her. I'm currently an assistant vice president of enrollment and financial aid for a 4-year private university. I am on track to become either a provost or president of a college.
Okay, wonderful. Welcome, Dana. Popcorn too.
I'm gonna popcorn it to Anthony.
Hello, everyone. My name is Anthony Glenn. I am in sunny Southern California. I'm not in the education field, formal education field. I'm a CEO of a vertically integrated real estate firm. We have 318 employees, and I teach generational wealth building to military people. I have a background. I'm a U.S. Marine retired. I served 20 years in the Marine Corps, and I'm happy to see some of my friends in the class. Some of these people I've taken classes with before. So I'm going to popcorn to my friend DeAndre.
Hi, good evening. My name is DeAndre Jones. I live in Tacoma, Washington. For the last 10 years, have been working in student affairs, higher ed, and advancement. About a month and a half ago, I made a pivot and became the executive vice president for a local chamber of commerce. But it's a pretty cool role because I still get to work with high school age students and community and economic and industry partners while still stepping into my leadership, which has been really, really awesome. I think my ultimate goal would be to transition back into higher ed down the line, serving in an AVP or VP role related to either student life, alumni engagement, or advancement. Happy to be here. And I will popcorn to my orientation buddy, America.
We had a feeling. Good to see you, DeAndre. Good to see everybody. My name is America Nino Rodriguez. America is fine, but my name is America. And I prefer she, her, hers. I currently work at a community college in the Central Valley, Bakersfield College. I'm a student affairs admin there. And I kind of want to teach. I've been called that way a little bit, a couple times, so maybe not completely pivot, but just like dip my toe in teaching at some point soon. And I will popcorn to Christopher.
Well, you so rude. No, I'm just kidding. It's good to see y'all, some old classmates and some new classmates. My name is Christopher, excuse me, Simpson. I'm originally a Southerner from Kentucky, from the greatest state in the Union. Don't do that. I'm nestled here in the Bay Area in Silicon Valley. I was a college administrator for 16 years. I forget my title now, but we're making it work. My pronouns are, how's that work again? He, him. And if you really know me, whatever pronoun fits the occasion. I don't know what I want to do after this. All I can think about is finishing this program at this time. I'm happy to be here.
Welcome, Christopher. You're popcorning too.
Oh, dang, my bad. Lotta, did you go?
Not yet, thank you.
You're welcome, friend.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see a lot of familiar faces. I'm so excited we're in summer now. I'm Laura Escobar, for those of you that I don't know. My pronouns are she, her. I have an HR background. I am currently a director of human resources here at USC, supporting some of the provost office units. And similar to Christopher, I'm just trying to get through the program, and the main purpose for why I'm doing the program, I guess, is probably a good way to answer, is to help me better support the employees that I support in higher ed. And I will popcorn to Samreen.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Samreen, and I currently have a accounting faculty role at a community college. And it's exciting to see so many familiar faces in this Zoom meeting. So glad to be here with you all. And I think for me in this program, I have been in the community college space for a while, and I wanted to see what other opportunities there were, either the Dean VP route or in consulting. And I'll popcorn over to Ernest.
Thanks, Ernest. Hi, everyone. My name is Liz, and I currently am working for the Department of VA, Veterans Affairs. I am currently a vocational rehabilitation counselor. My background has been in military communities with dependent service members and veterans transitioning in or out. And so my goal after this program is to work in some capacity of leadership within the educational department and or policy to assist veterans, especially those with service connections, to transition out with applicable resources that is going to be beneficial for them. And I don't know who's left, but I popcorn one of my favorite basketball players, Miss Southall.
Thank thank you, Liz. Hello, everyone. My name is Thadisha Southall. I've been working in higher education for about 10 years now. I currently serve as an assistant director for first year advising at USC. After this program, I hope to be like an athletic director. I really am passionate about providing like holistic support for student athletes. And so my goal is to become an athletic director, ensure that they have holistic programming developed for student athletes. Let's see who hasn't. Joshua, have you went? No.
Nope. Thank
Okay.
you so much. Hi, my name's Josh Hutchinson. He, him. I work in the USC libraries, and I also work at Beauvard College at USC. And I think I'm doing this course and hoping afterwards, as many people have said, to maybe move into administration, but also it's really helping me understand the context in which I'm currently working because through my career I've been getting narrower and narrower, and now's a great time to sort of understand the broader context of where I'm working. And I think that's really helpful for me where I am now rather than in addition to where I'm hoping to go. So who hasn't gone yet? Erin?
Yep.
Thank
Hi
you.
all. My name is Erin. I use she, hers pronouns. I currently serve as Director of Orientation and Transition at the University of Utah here in Salt Lake City, and I am hopeful to be on the VP track. Sorry, popcorn to Maggie.
Hello everyone, my full name is Yana Gizu. I go by Maggie or Yen. Either way, my pronouns are she or her. I have been working in higher education this is my 9th year right now. So I serving as senior students advisor and a program management professional at the University of Georgia. So I'm 3 hours ahead. So my time now is 11:13 p.m. right now. So where my job are very focused on international students support and multicultural programming and students engagement. So after completing my programs, I hope to contribute to creating like more inclusive and supportive environments for diverse students populations. Is that everyone?
I believe I'm the last one. So
Oh,
hello
sorry,
everyone.
Luis.
Yeah, no worries. Nice to meet you all. I think most of y'all know each other. My name is Luis Ceballos. I'm the current student director of our rocket science department here at USC. And my goal is to run my own edtech company after I finish the program. Yeah.
Hi, is that everybody? All right, what a diverse expertise in the room. Yay. All right, thank you. So then we can get started into talking about the course, right? The course first. All right. So let me just briefly review what you need to do to ace the course, right? So the first thing that I'll be talking about is a research panel, and this is group projects where it's going to be 3 people group, but or 2 based on how many we end up having in this class. No more than 3 though, and you will be working with your group members to do an outside research on a research article about a topic that's related to the content of our course. And then you are going to introduce that research as a panel. And it's a 15-minute, very short presentation, 15-minute presentation, followed by 15 minutes of Q&A afterwards. And you are going to tell us a little bit about the research that you found. And also you are going to tell us what you think about the research. I mean, do you think that's relevant to your own professional practice? Or do you think there is a gap in the way the research is found the results, or anything that comes to your mind, or even a question would be good. So it's just like an open discussion that you facilitate using the research findings. And you do have to prepare like 1 page, like a handout for us, all of us to to look at during or before your presentation of the research panel. And so we can take a look at that and, just a summary of the research and your questions or your key highlights that you wanted to communicate and convey with us. Okay, so that's going to be the panel discussion, the research panel. And I'm going to be circulating the sign-up sheet next week. All right, this is next week. So in between now and next week, you can talk to your classmates to see if anyone would be interested in working with you. And you can sign up together, okay, to be working, in a same group. If you don't have anyone or prefer not to, just say like one person or two people, that's fine. I'm happy to pair you up with a classmate or two. But if you do, if you know that you work well with a person, or if you share similar interest or background or your professional experience, then you might want to, maybe do a research on the content or the research that you mutually would find it interesting. So you can connect with that people, the person or more than one person, and you can sign up together. And I'll circulate the form next week. Assignment 2A is a theory critique. This is individual. Sorry, let me give you this. And this was this. And theory critique. And assignment 2A, this is a written assignment. Now that you have done this with a group like research panel and thought about like what research that you wanted to do, there might be a research that you want to investigate further and do a longer write-up on. Okay, so this is individual, and you can select a major work. It could be a book, or it could be a longer articles, or that you think that you want to analyze further. And this is not assigned in this course, but something that you wanted to review. Okay, so you'll be reviewing that, but this has to be based on adult or student development theory or research study. So you read and critique the selected work, not simply its contributions to our understanding, but its theoretical strengths and weaknesses. In other words, you'll be analyzing, you'll be putting in your own voices there. So not just talking about what it is, we're talking about the strength and weaknesses of the piece, okay? And its implications for student affairs or any of the professional practice that you think would be relevant in discussing this further with. So implications for student affairs, and see additional reference in the syllabus. It should be around 8 to 10 pages, double spaced, and this is due week 5. So during the week 4 or week 3, so it's going to be in 2 weeks, sorry, week 3. I will be going over this in detail, okay, as a theory critique. I always go over an assignment in detail 2 weeks out. So you can of course read the syllabus, and there's a rubric embedded in the hyperlink in the syllabus too, so you can take a look at that, of course. But I always go over the assignment in class so that we have a common understanding of what my expectation is. And sometimes I share an example of it and open up the floor for any questions you might have before you are ready to, delve into the assignment. All right, so that's theory critique. The second written assignment, individual assignment, is also called a positionality paper, and also semicolon a reflection in practice. So positionality is a self-reflective space. And then you're just going to talk about, now that you have many of the theories in your toolkit, now what? It's this paper. So how do you plan to apply or don't apply the theories into your own professional practices, right? So this is you're going to talk about who you are and the way in which these identities inform your outlook, leadership, research, and practice. This is reflective practice. So there might be one or two or more than three theories that you find it relevant. So in preparation for this assignment, I would strongly encourage you to take notes as you do your readings. And also when we have like class discussions, and if you want to take notes, I strongly encourage you to do that, because it will come in handy when you're writing this paper, because I'm going to expect you to cite the readings and class discussions and videos as you are trying to support your positionality or reflection. So in sense of self, there are no right or wrong answers. Accordingly, the use of AI is not appropriate for this assignment. And I'm going to talk more about the use of AI in each of the assignment. But you can read further in the syllabus. But as I said, and this is not due until week 11, so we do have some time. I'm going to go over this in detail in week 9. Assignment 3A, this is another group project, and this is a discussion leading project. So you are just going to just team up with, I suggest, a new group of people, and it's going to be 2 or 3 people working together on this. You're just working to lead a discussion. And based on the week's content, I'm going to be giving you 30 minutes, and this is your time to do whatever, to help us make meaning of the readings that are assigned for the week, or do some activities so that we can engage in the discussion for that week. So I'll be giving you the freedom. It's the critical discussion questions, application exercise, digital handout. So just basically, if you just prepare like a few very discussion questions that would be engaging and will help us think and also apply, and then application exercises. And any visuals that be welcome but not required. Sorry, the visuals meaning like a slides or materials, but digital handout is required on one page, double-sided summary, infographic, or resource guide, uploaded as a PDF for peers to download. Okay, so that's going to be the discussion leading, and I'll also circulate the forum next week, so that you can sign up for the week. So in between now and next week, I would love for you to take a look at the syllabus and identify the week that you want to do it, because I know some of you might be interested in doing like one content area and one unit. And if you have a strong preference, and you can sign up for that week, okay, to lead the discussion. Last but not least, assignment 3B, self-assessment, summative reflection. And I know that you have to write that longer paper in week 11, but this is like a really one page after we're done with everything. So after 1 week, sort of 1 week after our final class, and that's going to be the due date for this one pager, is for you to just think about class participation and contribution to peer learning. So do you think there's anything that you did well in the class in terms of participation? Have you contributed much to our collective learning? And if not, what are some of the things you would do differently? And what are some of the things that you did well? And in this, you are assigning yourself a grade for participation. And of course, I'll read it carefully and then also assign you into grade. This is just one pager reflection. All right. So active participation is another thing that I'm looking for. And, active participation means that I would look for the evidence of your understanding of the readings. And of course, there's no right or wrong answers, obviously. And if you, do your readings and watch the videos and then bring to the class with some kind of, takeaways. Okay, I think that's all there's to it. I mean, and then we'll use that in class to make meaning together as a group. And of course, you can bring a question, or you can bring some points that you thought were important, or even a quote, or you can do some synthesis across the different readings and the videos. And if I see evidence of that, and you will receive a full credit for your participation. And I know talking and as a whole class, and also doing group work. And I won't be able to observe all of your actions during the breakouts because I'll be hopping around, but I'll be hopping around to try to catch as much as possible. My goal is to give everyone the perfect score on your participation. Okay, so please help me out by actively participating, and I'll try to make it engaging as much as possible too. All right. Any question about the assignments or the course so far? No? Okay, I guess I made myself very clear. I take that as a good sign. Okay. All right. So then I think we're ready to go on to the next. And I don't think that I'm gonna go over this in detail, but I think we understand the importance of collaborating and community agreements. And you can, oh, I said summer 2025, sorry, 2026. So this is, you can click on it, you have access to my slides, and you can read through. And it just means that we have to respect each other's opinion, openness, trust, inclusion, equality, and so we just make sure that we respect each other's points. We assume good intention. We'll listen to understand before we agree or disagree. We will respect all points of views. And I don't think we have to go over anything under this category of fostering community principles, because we're all professionals, right? And I heard great things about all of you last semester. And I taught EDUE 703 last semester too. And so I heard great things about your cohort. So I'm going to be holding high expectations from all of you. Any questions so far? Oh, thank you, Laura. Yeah, please say hi to George. All right, for me, okay, I hope you heard great things about me, but I'll do my best. Okay, all right. So if you have no question, then let's start to chat about the foundations of student development, which is the first unit. All right, so I do have a discussion question for all of us. So first of all, what assumptions about students are embedded in first wave theories? So we're going to be talking about 3 waves today. And before we talk about the specific theories, which is the, which we're going to start discussing next week, and the week after, until that we're done with the course. But we want to talk about, first of all, the different waves. So I see Ernest, you have your hand up. Do you want to talk about any of these questions? Yes, that sounds wonderful. So I'm going to ask you to think about these 2 questions while I do that. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay, give me 1 second. Okay, it's done. So those of you who came in a little late, and wait, is this? Nope, that's not it. Sorry. There's a wrong link, and I'll give you the link again. This is the link, okay? The second one, where I'll be saving all the class materials moving forward, okay? And okay. All right, let me ask the same question again, and maybe I'll project this on the screen too. Give me 1 second. Okay, so first of all, what assumptions about students are embedded in the first wave theories? Anybody has any ideas about any assumptions? Or let's also address the second question too. What limitations emerge when applying first wave theories? Any one of you, have any responses to any one of these questions? Anthony, you have your hand up? Take
Yes,
it away.
in here, in the readings of
Oh,
can y'all
there
hear
you
me?
go. Yes.
Okay, so one of the major in the three-way, when we were reading in the first week's reading, they were basically talking about how educators must move beyond, one size fits all model. And what stood out about the three waves was identity-based theories involving race, gender, and diverse populations. So, you know, and how, identity shape experiences in higher education. Everybody doesn't learn the same way because they come from different walks of life.
Thank you, Anthony. So you started out, you said that that the first wave started out with like thinking of like, is there anything universal, right? About student development. And then, maybe like, later on, people were thinking, no, the groups are pretty diverse. And what about the other students who have been marginalized? So it's starting to think, theorists were starting to think about the second wave, which is like the differences, diversity, and also identity. So which we'll talk about in just a second too. But I do see Dana, you have your hand up. So go ahead.
Yeah, so I was just gonna piggyback off of Anthony and just talking about the first wave theory, which is a more traditional developmental model. Also, what I gather from the reading is that the first wave theories just focus on more so universal and linear stages of development. I also, in reading, just noticed that there was a theme mainly for just psychosocial, cognitive, and moral growth. And it seems to pinpoint that this wave of theories are for dominant student populations, is what I
Yes. Thank you, Dana. So that's one of the weaknesses that people say about the first waves and also second wave theories too, is that it's about the male white class, white middle class. And what about those other students that we need to serve, but we're not really taking them into consideration when we're having these theories. That was a big criticism when it comes to the first wave and second wave too. So just because that we're dividing these into three different waves does not mean that they're the third wave is better than the first wave theories. It's just how people, the theorists' idea and paradigm shifted. However, that there are weaknesses in every theories. Ernest, you have your hand up. Next, take it away. Yeah. Yes. Great. Yeah. Mm. Thank you, Ernest. So you're also talking about the notion of intersectionality. So the intersectionality, which was like one of the big paradigms that the readings talked about, that kind of like laid a foundation for second and towards the third wave, right? So that was big thing, and you were talking about not just women, but women of color, right? Who might be experiencing different things as they develop, and this is a huge you know area that we're missing, like by the time the first or second wave, right? So I think that was really keen observation. Thank you, Ernest, for that. Joshua.
I think the thing that I would add to what Ernest was saying is that one of the things that I was reading, which kind of leads into the limitations when applied to diverse student populations, is that it often seemed like the homogeneity was sort of the point. So a lot of the conclusions that they were drawing were being drawn from that homogeneity and the sort of similarities between the people were encountering as they got to college. So like thinking about the Parry reading. And so I think that really led to a lot of the conclusions, which clearly were just not accurate conclusions once applied to different populations and populations that didn't have that same homogeneity.
Thank you. The homogeneity. I mean, how do we define like homogeneity, and how do we define, I mean, so there were so many questions that emerged from what population are we talking about as the theorists were trying to generalize, right, the findings and apply. And it was just not applicable to some of the population that we were trying to serve. So that's thank you for that. And Erica in the chat, and Anthony, majority focus on psychological development centered on white males. And thank you. That was the characteristic of the first wave theories. In the feminist movement, Erica says, couldn't succeed without women of color. Femininity lacked inclusion until it needed to acknowledge the power of marginalized women's voices. And I agree with you on that. So then let's talk about the contributions of the first wave theories to the field of student development. Anybody would think that what would be their contributions? Ernest, is that a new hand or hand from before? Yeah. Okay. Christopher.
What comes to mind there for me is at the end, I don't know what page this is. I think this is page, I don't know, where it talks about the student coming away a different person after they go through the education process at a college level. And I think we still hold that today.
Mhm.
just in a very different way, in a very different perspective. I immediately overlay historical context to what was happening. This is around the 60s through the 70s.
Mhm.
And so, as civil rights and feminism was happening, this was kind of education's way of trying to grapple with that in a way and come back to industrializing education and who gets access to education.
Mhm.
But that very much is still a thing today that we want you to go through college and come out a different person.
Mhm. Thank you. Thank you. So that was definitely, yes, looking at it from the historical lens, and that's really helps. And then you go to college and you come out as a different person and then more, I guess, with advanced knowledge and, somebody who could be more productive. I think from that lens too. All right. Thank you, Christopher. Anyone else? What would be the contributions of the first wave theories to the field?
I think I would say it legitimized the field of student affairs and thinking about all the different programs like counseling and peer support. And I think it gave it a real sort of like science to support the existence of the field in general.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, America. So it definitely gave some legitimacy to trying to study the student development, even though they're adults already, right? So trying to understand where they're coming from, and also trying to understand the environment that surrounds them, and that's the first wave too. And the college experiences, and also campus environment, peer relationships and strongly influence development. That was the ideas behind the first wave theories, and that was nicely, I think, grounded in theories. Okay, from the first wave. I saw a hand going up from you, DeAndre.
Yeah, you covered what I was going to
Oh
share. I just
no, no,
think,
I
no,
don't
no,
want
no,
to
it's okay.
steal your thunder.
No, no,
I
no,
want
it's
to hear
really
your
okay.
version.
I was just thinking about how, yeah, it legitimized and sort of created the foundation for us to be able to think about how this looks um, in in practice, but then created pathways and opportunities for us to really critique and to synthesize in the following waves and to, I guess, provide more, um, I guess, allowed us to be able to hone in on uh, both the I guess like the implications on students who are and members of the community who are being impacted by these theories. So that would be the only addition I guess I would add there.
Definitely. Yeah, very well received. Thank you. Thank you. And Erin, you said the environment and how campuses were designed to promote student development. And definitely, that was one of the key contributions of the first wave theories. Thank you. All right. Yeah, go ahead. Mhm. Thank you. So, thank you, Ernest. So the cognitive dissonance is a key idea. I mean, in the theories from the first wave, they believe that students develop with cognitive dissonance, and then they, they question, okay, what's going on, and maybe they question with with why, and then there's, and then that really gives them the opportunity to grow and to develop by trying to answer the question and try to reconcile the differences and also the dissonance that they were experiencing. Thank you, Ernest, for that. And Tadisha.
Yes, I just wanted to share kind of like when I was doing the readings, I kind of just reflected on my experience
Yes.
as a student athlete. I think like for me, I felt like the traditional student assumption like didn't really fit us. I think we as student athletes we spend like a lot of large amount of times with campus life in a sense of like encouraging students to come to our games. We had like a crazy travel schedule filled with study halls and things like that, but we had limited access to kind of like the traditional college experience in which these theories are like really based on. And so although I was like highly involved on campus, I think my involvement looked a bit different from the traditional student model, in which is, which we are able to see like when we're looking at these first wave theories. And so I just did like a little bit of reflection on that as my experience as a former student athlete.
Yeah, so Tadisha, your identity as an athlete, and also serving with students who share the similar background, might not fall under the traditional theories that studied the population, the population who might fall under different category, right? So one thing that one of the readings that talk about was the student athlete identities and experiences. And one of the things that they talked about was the importance of recognizing what they're going through, okay, and balancing academics and athletics, maybe very different experiences for them. Institutional pressure to perform, and racial inequities in college sports too. Okay, what is it like to be, a female athlete versus male athlete? Like, okay, so very, very different experiences, and we have talked about it in using the term intersectionality, but this is very different groups, and we need to understand the student development from these students' perspectives and lenses too, which we started thinking about from the first wave, but I think more so with second and third wave too. Okay, thank you for that. All right, so this is Erik Erikson's quote. But I'm going to move on to talking about, okay, first of all, wave one, the first wave. So we talked about developmental phases. Theories focused on stage-based models of student growth and psychosocial development, something that Ernest talked about, right? So theories explore how students' identities and relationships shape their growth, and foundational theories, Erikson, Chickering, Gilligan, Kohlberg, okay, and all of those theories, very foundational. And what would be quote unquote typical development, but this again only surveyed and research usually the white middle class male, okay, but we still can understand from their perspectives, and we can add on to or transform the perspectives based on what population we're talking about in the second wave. All right. But one of the criticism, of course, of the first wave theories is that the process of development is not always linear, but the theories make it look like that it is linear, right, and predictable. Okay, and I think that it's really I think it makes sense for anybody who's reading the theories to think that, oh, this is predictable. After this stage, you move on to the next stage. You have state of disequilibrium and cognitive dissonance, and you resolve that, and then you move on to the next stage. Sometimes it is the case, but it's not always the case. Sometimes you regress and you move back. Okay. And so it's not always linear. It can be circular, or it can be, based on individuals, and it can be different. Another thing that the first wave theories have not really delved into is how these can be a group and collective developments, or it could be very different based on different populations, something that we talked about. And they have said that this is development is individual. Okay, sometimes it's true, but sometimes it's not. It's not largely individual and universal. Okay, it may not be universal, and it may not be individual. Okay, it really depends on the context and depends on what we're looking at. First wave theorists were looking at it from the lens of predictable steps and linear development. But the later theorists that they have criticized, this, and then they have come up with something different. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about the second wave student involvement theory and identities. You can look at, I'm not going to go into in details because we're going to be covering these later on in our course. But just, in a nutshell, 1975, Aston student involvement theory popularized. 1979, Tinto's interactionist theory and Schlossberg's transition theory. And 1986, Chickering's 7 vectors. We're going to talk all about these theories in details later on in our course. In 1987, Magola's theory of self-authorship. This is very important theory that we're going to talk about later. 1996, emphasis on diversity and multicultural perspectives. So some of the key ones, for example, Aston student involvement theory. Okay, this theory suggests that students learn and develop through active involvement and participation in campus activities and experiences. In other words, outside forces will also help shape the experiences of individuals. Okay, according to Aston student involvement theory. And it emphasizes the importance of student investing physical and psychological energy into their educational experiences. So it's very important that students invest in physical and psychological energy into their education experiences, and they would, really it's important for the student affairs officials to involve students into campus life and their psychological energy and motivate them so that they would fully experience, delve into their education experiences on campus. Okay. Tinto student integration model developed by Vincent Tinto. This model explains the process of student persistence and dropout in higher education. Okay. So this is the importance of integrating both academic and social lives into the campus community. And because, these theory states that the more successful students are as they integrate both social and academic lives, the better outcome they tend to have at the end of their campus lives. All right, so then my question to you all is how did second wave theories challenge the assumptions of first wave theories? I know that we covered some of that already. How does the second wave theories contribute to understanding students? For example, identity development, environmental influences, and what limitations? So what would be the contribution of or characteristics of the second wave theories? And are there still any limitations of the second wave theories? Anybody? Christopher, take it away.
Sorry not to hog the mic, but I was just going to open this thought bubble about basically wave two reminded me there is still a dominant group within the campus
Oh, yeah.
deciding what the groups are, like
Yes.
what the social groups are. And so while I was getting excited about drawing connections for progress, I had to pause. And I don't know, I'm still trying to put the pieces together with that thought bubble, but I thought about like the students are not organically deciding where they belong in a way because it's only based on what's available to them based on the campus environment. And then somebody decided that what the groups would look like or what the sociocultural climate of the campus will look like. So that was just a thought bubble. I'm still fleshing that out.
Thank you. So it's very much decided upon by those people who are in power still, right? So, very restricted, even though there is an attempt that individuals' diversity and their backgrounds and how they identify themselves are being taken into consideration when they're coming up with theories, but still there are limitations, still because of structural, limitation and inequity. Thank you. Dana.
Excellent point. I was just going to say that actually, but I was more so with the second wave theory, what it expands on is more attention to marginalized student experiences. And what I felt with institutional environment as it pertained to race, gender, and culture, you have sometimes where institutions specifically, like for example, I used to work for UCLA, so it's a state school, research university. I now work at a private Lutheran university. And so although the university is based off of set foundations, their student population comes from all over. But if we were to do a climate survey, or if we were to do a culture survey and ask those students about their experiences, we fail. Oftentimes because a lot of the students that they're enrolling, they don't have a sense of identity. Because the premise or the base foundation of a Lutheran university is more religious based, but they accept everyone. But the students that are on campus are, trying to thrive because they want to feel like they're a part of something, but yet the institution isn't really giving them much to feel a part of, unless you're an athlete. That's another conversation. But outside of that, I felt with this wave, this particular wave, it's just based off of student experience. And we got to just kind of be careful with those marginalized groups in this type of theory.
All right, thank you, Dana. So this is largely based on like student experiences and what they're claiming to be their identities, and also like begin to look at diverse student experiences, social identities such as race and gender. However, as some of you had said, this is still very individualistic, right? And this is you, okay? Not based on, maybe the larger structural inequity that's shaping who you are. It's not that, but your own psychological or your own emotional, your own physical development that's either helping you grow or not, right? It was largely based on that premise. Ernest, you have your hand up. Right. Thank you, Ernest. Today's readings had the CRT framework in it, some of them, right? So the authors argue that traditional student development theories often fail to name racism, okay, directly. So it was more of like they use softer languages, such as isolating or chilly climate, right? So it's what they said, right? So I think maybe like first and second wave theories, some of them may have addressed, these inequities, but still, like just like what you said, Ernest, and they might have softened the languages or they identified them, but did not really help those who are applying theories to transform, right? Transform the environment or transform the experiences and or inequity in order to change the lives of these students, but just identify them, recognize them. Okay. Thank you. All right. Before we talk about third wave, so one of the key characteristics of the second wave was the importance of making sure that you included diverse student experiences. That's the contributions of the second wave theories, right? So first wave was more of like, okay, stages, right? Stages, then you go through these stages and experiences are important. Second wave, now let's integrate identities of the students. Let's integrate diversity of the students and involvement theory, right? So students need to really integrate their social and academic identities and involve the environment on campus. And we have different identities that intersect, right? So that's a second wave. However, we're still like missing the pieces of thinking about this holistically, coming from the larger structural power, standpoint, and how does CRT or other structural, uh, you know, uh, structural lenses that come into play in order to interrogate the power or perpetuate prevent the system to perpetuate the status quo. Okay, so that's missing from the first and second wave. Okay. All right, so I'm going to be asking you to take a break. Okay, I know this is a longer class, and I am going to give you a 10-minute break in between the first and second half, and we're going to come back and do some breakout activities. So I'll see you back in 10 minutes. Welcome back, everyone. Okay. All right, so we'll do this activity in a breakout and then come back to talk about your understanding your applications of wave first and second wave theory, and then your initial thoughts about the third wave, and then we'll talk about third wave as in conjunction with first and second wave together. All right, so let me give you the links in a chat. I think that's easier. Let me second. There you go. If you click on it, you should be able to see this form. Okay. So I'll be giving you 15 to 20 minutes in a breakout session. And when you are with your group members, I would like one of you to be the note taker, the one person to make sure that you talk about all of these things that you know, also wanted to bring to the table for our discussion for in a whole group session. And let's see. Okay. So I'm going to be asking you to not just talk about what the first wave and what the second waves are. I think we have a good understanding of what those are. But I would love for you to think about how these would impact your work in your contexts, right? So what would the first waves theories, you can pick any one of the first waves theory that you read about from the readings, or you can talk about the overarching themes that emerge from the first or second and third waves, and then think about it in conjunction with your work contexts. And or you can have like some implications. You can talk about some criticism. You can talk about some questions that come to your mind as you discuss with your group members about these different theories that fall under different waves that we talked about so far, and plus the third wave. So I'm just giving you some freedom to discuss these with your group members. And then now this time I wanted to add one more layer of you thinking about this in terms of your work context applications. So how can you apply the theories into thinking about your students' lives and how you'll be serving those students versus, and what are some of the limitations that you see as you are thinking about applications of these theories into your practice. Okay. So I will be closing this out and then giving you the breakouts. And I'll also hop around to help you out. There we go.
It's 12 a.m. right now out of Georgia. I live in Georgia, so I'm like 3 hours ahead. So I had like 3 coffees already to keep me like at this level. Yes. It's, how much time we have? 15 minutes? My takeaway from the first wave is that I see this series create like very important foundation for understanding students' development, but they lacked consideration for like a diverse identities and the lived experiences. So in my work in higher education, especially for international students advisor, I can see like how some institutional systems were like originally built around these traditional assumptions. I would say that, which may not fully meet the needs of for international students and work scholars for diverse populations today. That's my thought.
I think we only need one facilitator. Wait, hold on. Well, we only have 3 minutes to share out. So you just want to write down which way for each one?
Yep, we can. So are you gonna take the first wave, I think?
I think you had the first wave.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Mhm.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
I agree.
So the third wave, I know this is kind of like entering into a newer phase, but this one kind of is like, I guess I don't think I'm trying to find an example for me or think of one, honestly. I think when it comes down to like the third wave, especially like as somebody who used to work in student affairs and like overseeing the student affairs department, it really caused me to focus on um, emotional stability and emotional intelligence, but also just how to implement that, how to implement programming so students can actually enhance that, and especially like working in like residential life. I'm still kind of like I see all the moving pieces a little bit more in the third wave, but I do also see how these pandemics and like political like shifts are affecting students, but then also how it's like it has affected me in my career and has caused me to relearn and adapt to new ways of implementing safe spaces. Okay. Mhm. Yeah. It's not fixing. Mhm.
Yeah. Right. Are you? Oh, in that Cash Davis? Okay, David class too. Okay. I was wait for like 15 minutes and then received like email says canceled. Gosh. I know. Exactly. Exactly.
Should I say finding ways to implement new practices to encourage and enhance um, what I said? Maybe like a sense of empowerment. Is empowerment a good word? If she wants to actually add more detail, or you think this is okay? Okay. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. How do you like the readings for the HR one so far? Like, how's that? Mhm. Yeah. Mhm. 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 Yeah. It's like I'm not taking that class, but I do wanna get into HR, but I wanna be like an employee relations person, like, I wanna build the healthy workspaces, and I'm like, "Should I actually take that class or should I just stay on the track that I'm in?" Because right now I'm taking the innovation entrepreneur class, and so far yeah, like, so far today, we had it t yeah, from 5 to, like, 7:30 something, so we only had, like, a 20-minute break, but so far, I like him. I think I wanna stay just to kinda push myself past what I already know. Like, work I like Cash, but I kinda like him as well. He's like, "I don't care if you don't come to class. I don't care if you don't do your readings. I don't care about deadlines. Like, you're a doctorate student. You got here for a reason, and so I expect you to just kinda, like, keep up with everything." Um, but, like, just him telling, like, his personal story and, like, we were talking about failure, like, he's done a lot with his career, but also kind of feels like he failed. So he's definitely like connecting with us on a personal level. So we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like you have some notes on here. You're done?
I think so. Did you want us to like really make it
Pretty
like
much.
a little bit more personal to us or just like a more theoretical standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, I was looking for both. Your takeaways from the theoretical standpoint, and also how would you apply, or some of the theories might not apply to your context. So the other groups are talking about that, pertaining to your specific work context. So
Mhm.
if you want to talk about that and address some of the limitations too, or sometimes that the theories would help you understand the some general needs of your student populations too. So
Yeah,
what
so we
would
were
be
talking about international students.
Mhm.
And I think for all of us, we kind of like have that overlap with working with international students and equitable practices. And for me, because I work in student affairs, I've been like um, kind of like trying to figure out how to implement more equitable programming and inclusive programming in order to get students to kind of step out of their comfort zone and to mingle outside of their own cultural like heritage or um, their own disciplines. And that's been an interesting struggle, especially after the pandemic.
Mhm.
Everybody is kind of either very hesitant or just has this like limitation on how far they want to go. But that also caused me to start focusing on emotional wellness and stability and like intelligence in students. And that kind of took over the programming aspect for me versus like really trying to find different activities. So I kind of go back and forth. But I think for all of us, we kind of focus on each wave was like focused around um like kind of like introduction. Here's a problem. Here's what we've done, but this is kind of like what we have to do or what we need to kind of correct.
Good. And you mentioned about like different dynamics, social forces. So you talked about pandemic. You talked about, possibly like, geopolitical issues when it comes to international students too, right? I remember when I was teaching an online class during the pandemic, and I teach a lot of international students, and they would, come to class fearful of people, especially those students coming from China. And they said that they're being attacked. And they were really fearful of, and in this situations change. It's very dynamic, and how they perceive themselves as well as how others perceive them, and it's social construction of identities, right? And then that has a huge impact on their everyday lives and their experiences here too. So yeah, Erica, as you mentioned, like the social forces around them and dynamics and all of that, a single theory cannot capture their experiences.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it'll just keep perpetuating the status quo. If, I know that last semester we talked about how being neutral is not neutral. Neutral, it perpetuates status quo, right? Um, yeah, and what is omitted, is really powerful in perpetuating the status quo. So what you're mentioning, Ernest, with the political dynamic, and yeah, and we're not gonna back down on this. This is something that we believe in, and no, we're not gonna compromise anything, regardless of funding. I know as a faculty, I'm not an administrator, so maybe I'm in a better position to say that. All right, I'm gonna call you back in the room.
Recording in progress.
I think so. Would you not go back to the main room, I think. Huh.
Right, everybody, welcome back. I am going to ask each group to give us some highlights. I mean, we can read this. I know that you all have this, document in front of you. But I'm gonna ask one of you or all of you, you can all chime in as well as you debrief what you said and share with us what you talked about in a smaller group. So why don't you, Erica, Ernest, and Maggie, right? Why don't you three go ahead and give us the highlights from your small group discussion?
All right, I will start with the first wave. So the first wave series provides a very important foundation for understanding students' transition, adjustment, and development. But they often assumed traditional and universal students' experiences that do not fully consider diverse identities and lived experiences. In higher education today, some systems still reflect these assumptions, which may not fully support international students or visiting scholars and other diverse populations.
Thank you.
Yes, and then so for the third wave, I kind of focus more on the implementation, I guess, like of something new. And that kind of stems from my work in student affairs, especially like during the pandemic, how to actually encourage and enhance student empowerment or like student agency. So trying to figure out how to tailor inclusive programming for students. It caused me to take more of a holistic approach, but also pay attention to, like Ernest said, like the political realm that we were in and still are in order to um, reconnect, as well as like convince students to connect with their environments in a different way, especially in this like AI era now.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, groups. Before I say anything more, or what reactions do you all have about what they just said? Or questions? No questions or no reactions? Okay, I see a hand going up. From Liz. Oh, that's not the hand. That's the clapping hand. Thank you for your reactions. Anybody has anything you wanted to talk about with regard to what they just said? And I don't mind waiting. So you all successfully captured the main ideas from the first, the second, and third wave, and I was particularly happy with you recognizing that third wave is consisted of not just just enhancing empowerment through like recognizing individual needs, but you were saying that how individual needs are largely influenced by the structural geopolitics and cultural shifts, and it's a larger framework of things and paradigms, and also in the larger and broader structural issues and dynamics. So thank you for recognizing that. And I see a hand going up from you, Joshua. Thank you. Take it away.
So I think one of the things that as this group was talking, I realized that I think I had something kind of percolating as I was doing the reading, which is that this is obviously focused on student development, which is a very narrow aspect of education, and like students are crucial for education, but like it's not the only thing that we've been studying thus far in our course of studies.
Right.
And I think this third wave is where it really brings in the things that we've
Yes.
been looking at elsewhere, right? Like geopolitics, cultural shifts, and like um, these big influences on the like tidal shifts of like where education is going and how it's like changing and things. I think this is where it's like intersecting with all the other different aspects of education study that we're seeing right now. And I think that's kind of an interesting and useful way of like seeing the student development in a sort of broader context of like where academia is.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Joshua. So you last semester, you've spent some time thinking about how larger structural issues and the issue of power and would shape individuals' lives, and also equity and inequity, right? And also this comes into play when we talk about third wave. So if you look at like individual theories, and if it does not integrate larger structural factors, then that could be one of the things that you can use to criticize. I'm not saying criticize in a very negative way, but we all critique, in an academic domain in a way that's professional. So when you're doing like research panels, or when you are writing the critique paper for this course, for example, you can use those lenses, such as third wave. We would like to see more of these larger power structural factors that come into play when we are analyzing and looking at these theories, but we don't see that. We're seeing only the traditional very, or like tailored to like this one particular very dominant population, but we don't see where are the other groups in here. Just like what Christopher's saying, where does mental health fit in the wave theories, right? So this is a very good question that you're asking. And then what are we missing? What are we omitting? Who are we omitting? Whose ideas and whose knowledge counts in all of these theory developments in the first place? And that's adding the critical lenses and discussions into the mix. And that's something that I would like you to keep on using as lenses as you are completing the assignments and critique assignments, as well as the discussions that we have, and as you are reviewing these individual theories as we move along. Thank you. Let's move on to the next group: Dana, Erin, Samreen, and DeAndre.
Do you want me to start since for wave one group? Okay, cool.
Go for it, DeAndre.
Okay, cool. So for wave one, we highlighted similar themes that were discussed at the beginning of class today, that there was really a focus on homogeneous groups, and dominant groups at the time that many of these theories were developed. But one curiosity or question that I had been sort of trying to reconcile is um, uh, like minority serving institutions were already in existence as well, right? Like, so when we think about HBCUs or other similar institutions. And so I guess it's just interesting to me that these frameworks are being developed at a time that really focused on the experience of one population, and essentially disregarding or not even really paying close attention to the experience of students who were also experiencing these institutions in a different way, whether that's through their academics or through their engagement, services, identity development, so on and so forth. And so I think that that's just something that I guess was kind of sparked for me as I was reflecting back on this a little bit more. And so just our larger group question was around how do you reconcile that? Um, and then I'll kind of turn it over to the rest of the group for the other two waves, but those were some of our initial inquiries.
I'll take the next wave. Just representation of student groups, but also addressing students that do not fit in the mold. That's important. And what we talked about in our group too, and I shared just some of my experiences just sitting at a senior executive level, is that oftentimes there's some things that are done and it's very performative. So when I first started my position, the first thing I wanted to do was research data. I wanted to take a look at, what are our numbers looking like when it comes down to this group. And they hadn't done a culture survey with students in quite some time. But from the data I collected, it was not very good at all. And it kind of, I had to put my enrollment lens on too, because it's like, a lot of this is a domino effect of if we don't have a sense of belonging for students that are attending some of these universities or institutions, and it's stop out. They want to leave. They don't feel like they belong. And instead of doing surveys, and cognitively overloading students with, communications, let's do something with that survey. Let's actually make some institutional policies or changes to better, focus on making sure that instead of being so transactional with admissions and just bringing them in and treating them like cattle, how about we just bring them in and then we, assure that they're actually successful, and we create a space for students so that they can feel like they belong. One thing that I just saw in the chat, I'm sorry, Christopher, I'm gonna put you on blast right now. You said, where does mental health fit into these wave theories? That is a very good question because a lot of the institutions, I think some of them are now kind of fitting a lot of that into some of their practices, but some of them are still delayed. Some campuses aren't focusing on that right now. And I think that is so important. And thank you for bringing that up because I think it's so important to somehow intersect that into these theories.
Thank you, Dana.
Okay, and just quickly just touching on third wave and going off of Dana's sentiments, we chatted about how when we talk about higher education, but more so now with like DEI and student protests, where is that actual true sense of belonging? Some pieces that I focused on, that I was chatting about more specifically in my institution, but that collaboratively we were talking about is, again, that performative, but also I think that how much of what admin is feeling and doing is really translating into the students where they're not even feeling that sense of belonging. Admin and faculty have so much influence on being able to provide that sense of belonging, but in reality, it is that it's their agenda and what they are trying to enact and get done. And I don't want to say every single individual because I know all of us here are here for a reason as well. But I think that we, lest we forget why we are doing what we're doing and for the students. A piece that I specifically was talking about is being specifically in enrollment management. When we're done with our cycle, we're done. Where is that transition or warm handoff to continue that sense of belonging? And I'd also counter on the fact that when we talk about mental health and wellness, I know that my institution has started talking about it, but then also where does financial literacy come into this as well? And that understanding for the students, maybe not so much in the sense of belonging, but the full broader picture of what they're getting into.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. This group's contribution is the, that you're pointing out the importance of using data, okay? Using data to understand not just your anecdotal experiences. And Erin talked about how is it your experience or your perspective, your agenda as faculty or administrator, or is it the students? Or is it like an informed practice, even though sometimes students don't know, okay, why they're feeling what they're feeling. I mean, I'm not saying that, they're not they don't know their own. I mean, I'm not saying that, but it just sometimes it's the research, sometimes it's the data that tells you more about what they're going through. And it needs to be a combination of different forms of data. That's what I'm trying to say. So it needs to be, we need to hear the students' perspectives as one form of data. And we need to see the research findings that have been, they have been studying the population of the students and also like structural issues and dynamics that we see around the campus and outside of the campus too. And that all needs to be factored in as we are making decisions, right? And then your contribution is really clear in this and having that research and data in making sure that that we do have like holistic approach and making sure that, I know the readings did say that too, that there's no one size fits all, right? You need to be using like a collective theories to try to like apply the collective theories, and then we would be compromising the weaknesses of each of the theories to try to make it a better like implementation of those theories into practice too by using multiple different theories in practice. So thank you for bringing that lens to very important. Any other reactions to this group's contributions? Ernest. Mhm. Yeah. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Let's move on to Christopher, America, and Luis notes here. And then whenever you're ready.
Yeah, so I'll speak for the first wave, and from what I was sharing with my group, being here, the counselor for the rocket science group, being part of the School of Engineering, from this first wave perspective, using the example of prestigious private higher education and institutions, similar to what Ernest was saying, um, we perpetuate the idea that these prestige schools have its own place and it stands apart from what the rest of the population seems to be about, especially in a space here like California and Los Angeles. Being the counselor here, I can seriously see fragmented just place in general for the community that is supposed to represent, where the school itself or the School of Engineering is the power player for prestigious, power, white, male folks that continue to funnel the same historical like maneuvers that they've been doing. So if you want to be a part of STEM, you kind of have to fit that role. You have to fit part of that world. You have to talk like them. You have to be like them. And me being a Latino and seeing the community members, once they come into a space like this, it's like a deficit viewpoint for that student themselves. And the investment that they're trying to get for their own families in their for historical context is not put into play. I know someone mentioned earlier about the financial implications, where a place like here at USC for this rocket science program is one of the premier programs that funnel students into the industry, to the workforce. For these folks that are coming to the school, is substantiating the claim of this first wave of the predominantly white male engineer, while when a student of color comes in and they don't fit the role, they're pretty much putting themselves at a disservice to try to even make generational change for themselves. And I feel that being part of the school itself as a student, alumni, and staff, you can kind of see how, as Christopher said, the Americana culture being implemented in a space that you don't compare to like a community college or a state school, as some of the other folks were stating. Um, I can share more into my whole anecdotal ideas and opinion, but I don't know if my group mates would like to share more on this first wave.
Luis, I'm going to expand on yours with wave two.
Mm-hmm.
Something that came to mind as a thought bubble is that education's supposed to be the great equalizer.
Mm-hmm.
And so wave two, we talked about, and I know some people get upset when I say that, like at conferences and stuff, and I'm like, I don't care. If it's supposed to be the great equalizer, then why is there a dominant and non-dominant group? Academia, and those environments are supposed to not necessarily be structured in that way, because the knowledge is the dominant, I don't want to say dominant group, but so in wave two, expanding on Luis's experience about the rocket science program and building identities around academic majors and academic societies, not necessarily based on the identity of the individual and the culture and community that they bring with them. I also, as a group, and I was reflecting on kind of our conversation about education being a great equalizer, is that did we really just expand on the class structure? Like, is academia like a way to get to that top 3% in terms of intellectualism? And, you know, why am I here getting a doctorate? There's a social implication there where I fit into society. So, Luis, thank you for giving us the catalyst to carry the conversation. America, did you have anything for the one of the waves?
Yeah, I can add to the third wave. So, yeah, as Luis was sharing sort of his program and his experience, and there is positive intention in the program trying to bring in like more women or more people of color, But then once they actually get there, it's like, no, now we want you to fit into this mold.
Right.
Instead of really challenging the institution to change, to not look at these students like, hey, they're coming in with deficits, really focusing on like funds of knowledge or like their positive attributes to the program in the field. And so I think that's where the challenge lies, is as other classmates have mentioned, is really challenging the institution to change, is, you know, kind of where the real challenges lie. So how, you know, how do we do that as higher ed leaders, and stop looking at students as like coming in with like a deficit because they're not fitting the white male dominant mold.
Thank you.
And then I feel like it's also, I just had kind of a thought bubble, is it goes back to this kind of circular cycle of like the student development, is what are we then doing to students' own self-perception and value as an individual, and like their culture, their community, you know, their development. What messages are we telling them, and are we teaching them that they are not good enough, that they have to put on, you know, a certain front or pretend to be something that they're not, to be valued and to be considered prestigious?
Mm-hmm. So who constructs prestige? And it's socially constructed, and we're valuing the idea and ideal, okay, that is cherished by the, you know, dominant group and those people who hold power, and without fully interrogating the power system or transforming the entire system. And we're just doing the patchwork, right? We're inviting those people who are marginalized, but just like what you all said, and are we asking them to fit into the, you know, the mold that the dominant group had created? Okay. And there's like a standard right there. And there's the, you know, everything holds constant. And we're just asking the students and participants to be, you know, playing with whatever that's already been established, right? Without changing the system itself. So thank you for using that lens to talk about waves 1, 2, and 3. That's really brilliant and very applicable. Okay. All right. Let's look at Josh, Liz, and Laura's notes. Okay, is there anything you want to add, Josh, Liz, and Laura, to our discussion based on your notes? Go ahead. Mhm.
Yeah, we'll go first. So I'll be talking about wave 1. So what stood out to us is that at the time when these were first developed, these theories were really groundbreaking and foundational for
Yeah.
their time. So they shifted higher ed towards thinking more holistically, not just academically. Now, at the same time, these theories feel a little bit old-fashioned, because they don't really fully account for all the different identities and intersectionalities that we were talking about. We were talking a lot more about how like the transition from now till wave 2 and wave 3. So Liz will be talking a little bit more about wave 2 specifically.
So wave 2, we pretty much echo what everyone else has kind of covered as far as like student identities, the environment, reintegration, inclusion, spaces and belongings. One of the other things we also talked about was having flexibility and understanding of available resources so students are able to successfully pursue their goals. And then the shift to student development. So one of the things that I was able to kind of talk to my group about was working with veterans. And so having the limitations and challenges with veterans in the sense of like those that come from the battlefield into the classroom. And so those limitations or challenges that they face with PTSD and kind of how that question came up with like where are mental health services or where does it fall into? And so those are some of the things that we kind of work through as far as the professional side. And then I'll kind of throw it over to wave 3 with Josh because he had some good points in regards to working in library.
Thanks, Liz. So I was going to throw back to you and say Liz pointed out, I think, in a really compelling way that all of these theories are only useful if they're applicable and practical, and if you see them having impact in your life. So I think that led us to talk a little bit about how we're seeing these things have impact. And one of the things that I think, as we were talking about third wave, I made this connection in my mind. I work in higher education libraries, and there's been this shift and movement in university libraries to hire what's called a student success librarian. And I realized as we were talking about it, oh, this student success librarian, like that position exists because of this third wave of student development theory, because it's understanding like how the student fits within this context, but also doing things in order to make sure that they are, that there's student retention and that they're successful once they're here and all of this kind of thing, what the previous groups have been talking about. The other thing that we were talking about with respect to the third wave is this concept that it's so different. The world we're in right now, the educational world that we're in right now, is so different from what we were seeing in the readings from the first and the second waves in terms of hybrid education, distance education, and just moving away from this one size fits all model of what higher education is and like how it exists. And so I think those are kind of the discussions and the bridge between the practical and the theory that we were talking about with the third wave.
Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful. And the whole environment is changing, like online versus in person or hybrid experiences we're all having right now. And, that needs to be redefined. And are we factoring that in? And based on the foundational theories, I mean, I'm not saying we should throw that away, right? Altogether, but how can we build off of what we currently understand about student development and, use the data and use the relevant experiences of our students to understand more from their experiences, and that's also impacted by the changing environment. Okay, so thank you for that. And also, yeah, the veteran students too. And I think that we are waiting for today to talk about that a little bit and their unique characteristics and their needs, and how do we accommodate their needs, and their identity should be also in its intersectionalities too. How do we cater to their identities? And we need to be looking at it from that lens as well. All right, thank you. Why don't we look at the last groups? Daniela, Tadisha, and Tony.
So it's going to be only me and Tony because Tanisha thinks I left.
Oh, okay.
So I'll talk about the first two. So wave one, like we talked about in our group, how like building like the foundation of understanding students' experience by connecting with them and engaging in development, recognizing the importance of like their identifying confidence, and as well like how they feel like confident in their own selves as a person, but also knowledge of like these theories focus on like psychology and development things. And then for the second wave, we talked about how emphasizing as a student as a whole, not but just one person, but just a whole, making sure they feel like a sense of belonging, where they feel connected. Because sometimes like people focus on how to feel the student connected to the traditional college models, but in reality we just want to make them feel sense of belonging, for them to feel confident. And then Tony will talk about the third wave.
Thank you, Daniela. So the third wave, we essentially talked about how inclusion is important by acknowledging that identity shapes how students experience higher education, and how the impact on work context encourages culturally responsible advising and programming, and how it all ties together, right? Like a nice little sandwich. You can't have one without the other. And how it focuses on, systems of power, privilege, and oppression and inequity, and how it needs to, how leaders need to focus on systems of power, privilege, and oppression and inequity, and see how you can challenge those things to disrupt how how to reframe student development.
Mhm. Very wonderful. Okay. Wonderful. I think your contributions was nice summary of what we talked about so far. Any reactions to any of these last couple groups contributions? Anybody? Okay. So as an example, the wave 3, are you looking at the slide that says wave 3, everybody? Or no? Yes? Okay, thank you for nodding. So, for example, student success and retention. Student retention shift towards initiatives aimed at retaining students and improving graduation rates. And then this is wave 3. So holistic support, emphasis on providing comprehensive support services, such as academic advising, tutoring, counseling, so on and so forth. And degree completion, focus on strategies to increase the number of students completing their degree programs and data-driven decisions, and student engagement efforts to promote active student involvement in co-curricular activities, campus life, and learning communities. These, are, related to what you all said about, when you were talking about very specific strategies and how do we implement these strategies that are based on wave 3. So some of you have talked about data-driven decisions. Some of you have talked about, sense of belonging, right? And also making sure that they complete their degree, which is their objective of being here at the higher education, holistic support and student retention, like as if some of the holistic things that we understand from the foundational theories too. So wave 1. So what we want to reiterate is that there are very important theories from wave 1 and wave 2. And just because we're in the era of wave 3 does not mean that we should be, ignoring, wave 1 and wave 2 theories. We're going to be examining these theories from wave 1 and 2 starting next week. Okay. And also our lens will be, what can we add, to this so that we can apply these to our era of wave 3, right? Those will be lenses that we will be carrying as a class. So, so the takeaway, one of the takeaways of our discussions, and also based on the readings, is that we want to be eclectic, meaning that we want to use multiple different theories into our practice when we're making decisions on behalf of our students. For example, we all need to understand that we're in the position of power, right? We're making decisions sometimes for students. And when we're doing that, are we using our anecdotal experiences only? No. I mean, we want to make sure that we include students' perspectives, data, and strategies that are proven to be more successful for the given population that we serve, as well as including, not just the individual students' identities and their needs, but also the structural and also, dynamic that we see from the broader scope of things too. So we want to make sure that we incorporate wave 1, 2, and 3. Wave 1 being more positivist approach, meaning that more objective reality. We want to have universal understanding of the student's needs. Second wave, more of a student involvement, like relationships, identities, and environment. Wave 3 being more critical lenses, so critical lenses and also power and structural issues that need to come into play. As to sum it up. Sounds good, everybody? All right, thank you everybody for the great first class. I'm going to end the class in 5 minutes early, if that's okay. Okay, everybody, I'll be staying here if you need me. If not, then I'll see everyone next week. Thank you. Bye-bye. Yeah.
Recording stopped.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, that's okay. Could you send me an email so I have a record of that, and then I'll take that into consideration as when I'm planning for classes, and also like for excused absences, I do provide an opportunity for you to make it up if you do want to make up for the participation grade. This is totally up to you. I mean, one absence will not hurt, but I really want you to listen to the recording and see if you can learn from the content that you missed. So it's not just about participation point, but just giving you a chance to like catch up. Okay. So yeah. Um, and just, I'll be asking you to watch the recording and maybe give me like 1-page reflection based on what we have all said. And also based on the readings or videos and also our class discussions too, and give me a 1-pager and I'll, give you credit for the time you missed. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Good. Mhm. Sounds good. Yeah. Wonderful. Whatever works for you. Okay. All right. Sounds good. Thank you.